Hey, how's it going, everybody? So no live stream today. This is kind of going to be maybe a little departure from my normal Saturday videos, but today I just kind of wanted to show off my new discovery, as you could say, and that is my PlayStation Classic, and the reason why I decided to buy one. So I had looked online as to why in the world I would want this. We have the PAL versions of games. We have just this terrible emulation, to put it harshly. And as you can see, they're in the bargain bins now. You can find them, I think, as cheap now for $40. It'll probably go cheaper. I'm not sure. But I had a little epiphany of, if it's able to play PlayStation games, I wonder how well it will be able to play other systems through emulation. And this in no wise do I condone illegal downloading of ROMs or pirating in any way. But for me, all these games that you'll see today are games that are from my private collection that I do own. And so without further ado, let's get this on and let me kind of show off what's on my PlayStation Classic, but also how to get or I guess what the PlayStation Classic is capable of. So let's get that started here. Let me hurry and get rid of me, and we'll put on our capture device. And that was an ugly green screen. But man, oh man, that sound, it's a blast from the past. I love how they put it in there. So Bleem Sync, obviously, this is what would need to be installed in order for you to put ROMs on, as well as your emulators. RetroArch is the, I guess, your emulator. It's hard to call it an emulator because it has all these cores for different means of emulation. So let's just go to content. Obviously, the cores are there. There's going to be 81 different types of emulators. So just imagine that 81 different types of consoles, arcade cabinets, things like that you can essentially use for a PlayStation Classic. But yeah, so let's start off with Super Nintendo. I have started playing. So, I mean, right here you can see that you have tons of different emulators. I just go with the original one. I really have not tested out latency issues or anything else with how well they perform. This is kind of this one I've just been playing on. But man, as I'm playing, there are absolutely no lag with there is no lag, I should say, with emulation. Like right now as I'm playing, there's no input lag. And I don't notice any screen tearing or, really blurry emulation. I think, maybe this looks maybe not as good as the SNES Classic, but still, this is a very good machine to play your Super Nintendo games. So you can see there, I mean, we just beat that boss with ease. So I'm just going to close content. This is how you close out of the game. And let's try out something else. So, we've got Game Boy Advance. I guess we can hurry and try that. I haven't tried this before on here, so your guess is as good as mine. Let's see how well the emulation runs. I mean, it seems so good so far. Yeah. Input is just fine. There's no issues. I'm not going to get started with the game though, just because we have a lot to go through. What's kind of cool too here, you can upload your own cheats, save states. Sky's the limit with because you have RetroArch. And let's see, you have the NES emulator. Once again, I'm not going to waste time with that one. It's an obvious yes. If it can play Super Nintendo games, it's going to be able to play NES games. So we We already tried the Game Boy Advance. We got Super Nintendo. It was able to play Super Mario All Stars. That's kind of how, Mario RPG. That's how I really gauge how well an emulator is run by Super Mario RPG. It's kind of a complex game, and there is no lag whatsoever on it. So here's an interesting one. So this is a PlayStation Portable emulator. And what's cool too, this RetroArch on the PlayStation Classic makes it possible for you to use many different types of controllers. As you saw there, I was using controller port, the controller settings for the controller that came with it. Right there, as you can see, it just had 100% on the the PlayStation Classic controller. And I almost just lost my laptop. We're good. Sorry about that. And let me just plug in. It just said there that I unplugged my controller. I'm just going to plug in another controller here that uses an analog control stick. And that is actually the cheap of the wired Switch controllers. So here I'm using a Switch controller. As you can see though, it's not perfect. The emulation is not perfect on it yet. Let me try just unplugging it, plugging it back in, see if that will fix kind of what's going on with it. Okay. We'll just do an instant action just to kind of show it working. We'll do Hoth. Oh, this might be really white of a screen. Let's still do it. Should be fine. We'll just do Conquest. Civil War. Launch. But this is what's awesome to me. This is actually what sold me on it. I really wanted to find a way that I could play Final Fantasy Type 0, the original, as a Japanese exclusive, and play it on, not portably and just not on a computer. So this was my way I was going to do it. So here we have it. Here we're playing a PlayStation game, PlayStation Portable game rather. And I really love Star Wars Battlefront 2. And so to be able to play this on there, I mean, you can shoot, we can run. It's full functionality that we can play this game on the PlayStation Portable, or PlayStation Classic. Just gonna play it for another second. So you can tell though the sound is a little bit off. That struggles. That might be something you can fix within RetroArch itself. I haven't played around with it too much to do that. But for me, I mean, the game plays just fine. If you just played this without your sound on, you're going to be just fine. That's not the case with all PlayStation games. This is just one that was important in my collection that I wanted to be able to play kind of not portably. But once again, we will, let me switch out the controller. And hold on. And it's plug and play. For most controllers, it's plug and play. I know it works with PS4 controllers. It works for Xbox controllers, and some third parties. Like I was using that third-party Switch controller that plugs it right into it. So let's close this content. All right. What we'll do next, let's go into the DS emulators. So I will show you how it runs. You'll be the judge of that.
Here we go.
And we're going off of like 2 or 3 months of emulation here with the PlayStation Classic. So not all these are going to be optimized. So once again, here we have the audio is struggling. But hey, we're playing a DS game on a PlayStation Classic. So yeah, we'll just do a time trial just to show you kind of at least how well it runs. It's running slow. But, you know, how does the actual racing go? You know, if it's a smooth race, you know, good enough for me. And there's our answer. And 3, 2, and as the 2 disappears, then you hold in for the boost. I wonder if it's going to give me the boost because it's running so slow. Maybe I didn't time it right. Nope, I didn't get the boost. But anyway, I can't handle that anymore. It's just too slow. So, DS has a way to go, has a ways to go on it still. But, you know, it is pretty cool, though, that we can at least get it running. It didn't crash. So, you know, stepping stones. And it looks like my classic just crashed. So, definitely did not like that. You gotta unplug it and plug it back in. Usually that will corrupt my memory card, I should say my USB stick that I have in it that's running BleemSync and RetroArch. A benefit too here while I'm turning it on, so obviously this lets you add any any other PlayStation games that weren't on the 20 game list. So I have like Warcraft 2 on here. And you can play it from BleemSync, but it's better to play it from RetroArch because then you have the save states. You have just a lot more control over your ROMs here. Speaking of which, you go to the internal. These are the original 20 games that are included on it, so you can play those, using RetroArch. The last thing I was going to show you, the last emulator I was going to show you on here, was going to be the N64, and this is the reason why I got this in the first place. Besides the PSP functionality with the emulator, but I'm just gonna run Kirby 64 because I don't need to plug in the another controller for it. I can just use the control pad from the Sony PlayStation Classic controller. But as you see here, you know, how's it gonna run? As you can see, I've already completed a level on it, so maybe that's a good indicator. So it did have a little stutter there at the beginning, but when I played the first level, no stutter at all. So yeah, this one gets an A rank in my book. This runs really well. So and one other way that I test Nintendo 64 emulators is I run an N64 game that takes up a lot of like the RAM and is just heavy on the emulator, and that's gonna be StarCraft 64. You guys already know my love for it anyway, but let me just show how that plays. Like I said, with like my Wii emulator of the Nintendo 64, the Wii 64, I could not get this to work on it. I couldn't get it to work on my Xbox years ago when I modded my Xbox. So let's check to see if we can get it running. So, you know, there's some stuttering with the audio as it's showing this FMV. Just plugged in my Switch controller again. And looks like there is a little bit of data, I don't want to say data corruption, but look at that. It works. So there are some ghosting. My control stick is kind of wigging out on me right now. I don't think that's because of the emulation. I just think it's the kind of how the controller is. It has issues. I'm not using my best controller on this video. But anyway, yes, this game is fully playable on the PlayStation Classic. So I'm not going to say that every game is going to work on the PlayStation Classic here in the Nintendo 64 library, but those do work. But anyway, just kind of to close up this video, this emulation device is very affordable. Like I said, it's a bargain bins right now for like $40. To me, it's definitely worth it because of all of the emulators that you can put on it. Plus, all of the ROMs. I have a growing PlayStation 1 collection, and so for me, and I have quite an attachment with some of those games. So for the PlayStation 1, I was actually going to show just a couple of them that I have set up as I was closing up, but maybe that's not going to happen. Why not? We'll just do it really quick. Not sure. Bleem Sync. We have to go back a little bit more. Games. Like I said, I'm not going to show how it's done in this. I pressed the wrong button. There we go. So, like Castlevania Symphony of the Night. How well is it going to play? You're going to have to choose which core. We're going to use the actual core that the PlayStation Classic runs. And it takes a little bit to load it. Maybe it will load it. There we go. Oh, nope, that crashed it. I've never had that happen before. I'm glad that it's showing up on a video here. It could be that I selected the wrong file for it. We're going to select the queue instead of the bin. And maybe that will do it better. Games. Here we go. I have, just as a side note, I have had it work for the bin side as well. And it could be that this game is temperamental. Oh, there we go. Now it's going. Just going to let it, just because we're ending soon. Just going to hurry and get into this file. But how about that? So I haven't noticed any slowdown or anything. I think it plays just fine. Let me know if it seems slower to you. It could also be from my capture card. But yes, so you're able to play, all of your... actually, I'm not sure if it does do all PlayStation 1 games. But anyway, I hope this video helps, though. Maybe it helps sway you to decide that maybe this was not a bad system to purchase. So, anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Hope you guys found it helpful. Maybe not. At least if you didn't find it helpful, maybe you found it entertaining. Anyway, we will catch you later with our normally scheduled programming starting Monday. We'll see you later.